Welcome to another episode of Design on Purpose, the WordPlay Studio podcast. I was gonna start it like, the number one podcast in Murwillumbah. Like, people do that.
We don't know if we can say that.
No, I don't think so. But a lot of people are claiming number one podcast in the world, so we could claim Murwillumbah, but there's probably other podcasts out there. If you're hearing this and you have a podcast in Murwillumbah, hit us up. I'd love to know who you are. I'm sure there's something going on around here. What a good day we had today. Well, we had a good session today with our producer, Nelson.
Yeah, Nelf Life.
Nelf Life, yes.
Vibes Creative,
yes. And it was, we're just, this is the, is this the 10th? This is 10th episode.
Number 10.
We have hit a milestone, episode number 10. And we're just getting started. Nelson reckons that most podcasts fail within the first 10 episodes, so that's good. that we're still here. And we've been saying that we're going to have people on the show soon, and you will all get to meet the infamous producer behind the scenes, Nelf Life, Nelson Fiera, Vibes Creative, next episode, I think, right? Next one.
That's one.
So we're going to switch things up, which is pretty exciting. We've been getting been kind of just learning or just kind of recapping on all the learnings we've had over the last 10 episodes and what we're planning for the next 10, and kind of talking about what's happening from here on out. We're kind of doing them in like 10 episode blocks, aren't we?
Yeah, I think just there's a bit of learning that goes into it, like even like Nelson said, like from the first one that we did to what we've done now, where we're at now, like there's been quite a leap in how we're presenting and how we feel. I think getting more comfortable podcasting, and also just improving the setup. And now we really need to think about improving the setup for having guests on.
Yes, yeah. So we're going to start with one guest, but we're going to have the capacity to have 2 guests. So there could be 4 people hanging out in the shack on camera, which is going to be pretty cool. And yeah, he said like it's a new learning. Like it's one thing learning to have a conversation, a recorded conversation with 1 or 2 people, and that takes a bit of time to get a bit of gel going. So it'll be another learning process with whoever we get on the show, which we'll probably get 10 probably consecutive ones with guests, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's the plan.
And we need to keep learning from there, because there's going to be some adjustments that probably need to be made from there, like learning, having people on, even moving boom arms and mics, we got to reorganize that, and cameras and things like that. So, Nelson said that we're in boot camp.
Well, Nelson, you'll get to hear more about him in the episode, but he's done it all before, right? He's done 100 or close to 100 episodes of a podcast, got some good momentum with it. He's done a lot of stuff with a bunch of different social media channels. He started from zero. Good. So we're in good hands with Nelson. And also just Vibes Creative, vibe-wise, he brings the good vibes. He makes sure that we're good to go, keeping us on track, making sure all our processes are in place, so we can just focus on making a good podcast, and
that's it,
and go from there. Because there's so much that goes into it. You don't realize, isn't it? Like from the physical setup to the gear to learning how to talk, but then posting, how to drive traffic. And then I guess slowly will be, like you described it like a ladder, which it is like how we'll start to climb the ladder of guests in terms of, getting
people
from
that we
one
know
to the next. Yeah, exactly. People, close to you, and then slowly make your way out. So that's pretty exciting. A good segue to today's episode, a learning process, starting from nothing and slowly learning something that is pretty much infinite. It is infinite because, people it continuously evolves no matter what level you're at, which is Jiu Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which has been something that we've both been training and practicing for a little while now, not too long. We've got white belts. which means that that's the entry point to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. You get a white belt on your first day. That's where you start. And the road is really long and it is deep, right? It's pretty crazy, pretty eye-opening. I've never done a martial art before until Jiu Jitsu, and it's been a real game changer and eye-opener to, I guess, now I understand that it's what a martial art is. I didn't understand what a martial art was before until trying it. Yeah.
You never watched The Karate Kid?
Yeah.
No.
but like the art side of it, you know, it's not a sport. It has sport in it. You know, there's fitness.
Yeah, it's like a way of living, isn't it? It's a disciplined life, or it's an expression, but it's like a way of, I think, holding yourself in the world.
Definitely.
Would you say that?
I would say it's a philosophy. It's you never get to an end point, and it's a game of constant learning, or a process of constant learning. And it is a game because you train for everyone, you know, listening to this that doesn't know what it is, which I didn't a year and a half ago. You know, you train. It's like a team sport that you do individually in a way. Like your club or your gym or who you train with become pretty much like team members, and you're all sort of like, and everyone has different belts, colors. You know, some people have been training for decades, others weeks, and everyone trains together. Doesn't matter your body size, your gender or whatever, your age, none of that matters, does it, on the mats? It's just like all that, you're here to roll and learn and progress on this journey of learning this martial art. And yeah, it totally translates from the mats to the world. Like that's a lot of the cool thing about it. And that's where, like, I guess the kind of art, when it really clicked for me, it's like, oh, this is an art form, because it's not just about what you're doing when you're in your gi on your, and the gi's the uniform you wear, the
pajamas.
The pajamas. Yeah, the pajamas. You know, it's everything you learn on the mat is applicable off the mat in life. Yeah.
Well, it's that was a point I was going to add. It's like the biggest thing that I've noticed about it is like mental training, because the thing about jiu-jitsu is that there's a real pressure test to it. You're actually under pressure, whereas like a lot of other martial arts, like I've been doing a bit of capoeira, and it's not contact. I mean, you can go in some hotters and there can be contact. But with jiu-jitsu, it's like you're in a pressure situation. Sometimes you can't breathe, and you're having to kind of think about a solution and kind of keep yourself calm through, you know, between your breath and your mind, because your natural instinct is like you want to panic, especially when you're brand new to it and when you're a white belt. And it kind of teaches you to have to find a solution under pressure. Oh yeah, like sometimes, well that's it. You get really comfortable with being uncomfortable with jiu-jitsu. You're never really in a comfortable spot, and when you get to a comfortable spot, like a position where you almost have like an advantage, or you're able to sort of get leverage on somebody, it can it's not over there. It's like so quickly you can just switch, and the next minute you're the one kind of pinned to the ground or whatever. And it is definitely a mental and physical combo, because it's like when you're experiencing such physical adversity or physical pressure, like you're saying, like to the point where you can't breathe in some instances, and you manage to calm yourself to the point where you can come up with some sort of solution, or at least try. And that's the thing, like it want to just make it to the end of the time.
wait for the buzzer to go off. But it's like learning to always try something rather than just get passive. Yeah, that's been a big learning, I think, for me with it, is like as you learn, you know, because it's like the more you learn, the more skills you start to get, and the more little techniques you get, and you're able to keep moving. But it's still very easy to just go, just like, you know, tap out, like not tap out, but like, or you tap out. That's a whole nother thing we can talk about. But like, yeah, allowing the situation just to get the better of you. There's always like a way, an escape, some other solution. And it's usually just these little adjustments that you start to learn of like, okay, instead of just feeling this immense pressure of this giant person I'm rolling with, it's
or
like
a tiny person that's putting immense pressure on you.
Yeah, exactly. Just feeling the immense pressure of any person, depending on their skill level or size. Because tiny people can make you feel like an elephant sitting on you. But yeah, learning how to just go, okay, this sucks. How do I adjust my position as the first step to be able to then work out what the next step could be? You know?
Yeah, and I think that since we've been doing that, we've really applied that in the way that we're approaching business, aren't we? Because the thing about jiu-jitsu is that you're learning, if you make a big movement or if you're putting your arms out there trying to do something, you're going to get fucked basically.
Yeah.
So you're really just trying to make these little micro movements and adjustments like you're saying. And it's like with our work here, it's like, instead of doing big movements or big plays on things, it's like these little things or these little wins that you can get. And even like with working with clients or doing proposals, it's like just doing high quality shipping little pieces of work, getting feedback early and, building relationship rather than like putting something together on your own for a week or two without getting any input and then,
going all out on something and then just
it
getting
doesn't.
burnt. Yeah. Yeah, because you learn that pretty quick. Once you get started, it's like you can so easily just burn out. Like the first, when you first start going, it's like you're using more energy and more force and more strength to try and get you through a role with somebody. And all the techniques don't require strength or there's some things where you need a bit of explosive moments and things, but mainly it's about the technique that gets you through, not necessarily going, yar, and like just, like it's very smart the way that it works. It's very technical.
It's leverage, right? Like strength does help with it.
Yeah. Like if you had zero strength, it would be quite difficult. But also, I suppose the story of Helio Gracie was that he had, I think it was like some condition where he pretty much had no strength. And that's how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu got to where it is, because he was this tiny, skinny old man, or young guy at the time. But he would get gassed really easy or something like that. Like he would either like had in his tiny.
But gas is cardio, right?
Getting gassed. Like he did like any kind of like movement would just make him really tired. Fatigued, exactly. So, and that's why, or partially why it's got this whole technical aspect. And it doesn't matter if you're this tiny person, you can take down some mega, human, some big, burly, strong person. And, a 14-year-old can take you down.
Oh, yeah. Those kids are crazy. They're very technical, actually.
Yeah. And a lot of the people that do jiu-jitsu, the higher up, it seems you get like, one thing, the one thing that's crazy is that you never know who's really good at it. Like if they're not on their gi with their colored belt, it's like some dweeby person or some you can totally judge somebody and be like, oh, that, thinking of their physical ability. But like if you know jiu-jitsu,
no idea.
You've got no idea.
It definitely makes you think twice, doesn't it? Well, not that I get into fights or anything like that, but like you wouldn't pick a fight with someone after doing jiu-jitsu because you have no idea what someone knows or what knowledge someone has. You can't pick it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There was a clip somewhere of Hannah Gracie. They're asking him, somebody was interviewing him saying like, oh, have you ever been in a fight? And Hannah Gracie's like he's like grandson of Helio Gracie, like the family that created Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the beginning. And he's like, no, I've never been in a fight. Because Jiu-Jitsu is all about diffusing the energy. If somebody's coming at you hard, you're not going to come at them hard too, because that's going to make more. It's going to make more of that. It's going to create more energy and blow things up. It's like jiu-jitsu is all about like, use the leverage, like you're saying, like someone's blowing up. It's like he said like he would be very calm and like use body language that would diffuse the situation. If not, then a soft hand on the shoulder and the person would relax, and he's like, that's jiu-jitsu, that's the same thing. It's these principles you can apply to any situation really, and we only know like hardly anything with white belts, but it's
a long road.
But that's it. It's like knowing that you have some ability to use the energy that might be directed at you in a way that you're in control. You can actually use that energy to change it or disseminate it into a non-violent way, communicating in all these different ways. So yeah. What about tapping out?
Tapping out. Oh gosh. I've done that.
Maybe explain how it kind of works too, like for people that don't know what tapping out is and like what the kind of.
Well, to be honest, I don't really know all of the competition rules or anything like that.
Yeah, or not
like,
rules,
I don't know
but
all
I just
that,
mean
but
like what it looks like.
Well,
when
you're
you train.
basically you're trying to submit someone, right, in a choke or in a choke. It's a choke, right, or a hold or something.
Yeah, an arm bar or something like that, yeah. So
you're either trying to choke somebody or get somebody in some kind of hold, and they're trying to do it to you. So it's like, and you're trying to get into these positions where you're able to pull one of these movements off. But if someone's got you in a position, like whether they're, got you in a triangle, you cutting off the circulation, it cuts off this, doesn't it? It cuts off the veins to your neck, to your head,
side,
to your brain.
Can't remember what they're called. Mark always talks about them, but yeah, they're bad.
I don't know, but when you're in a triangle, your head feels like it's going to explode. And I don't know how long you've got till you pass out, but
I do.
I just tap. Oh yeah, you've passed out before.
I've passed out a few times, yeah.
Gosh, I kind of want someone to do that to me, just so I know what it feels like.
Just don't tap.
But yeah, and same thing. Like if someone's got you in some kind of lock on your arm or twisting your shoulder. What are those called?
Like a Kimura or yeah. Americano or something.
Yeah. Then you're feeling your shoulder kind of
rotating the wrong way.
Yeah, so
you're going
to tap. I do it quite early. I don't want to mess around with that stuff, so I do tend to kind of like.
Yeah, well, that's it with the tapping. It's like kind of like a humility sort of. It's quite humbling, in a way. Like if you really like got a lot of bravado, like you get softened when you're in jiu-jitsu because some little person's probably gonna, take control of you if when you're first starting and you got to tap, and it's like this process of always kind of knowing when to actually tap out. Like it is like it's not letting your ego or your bravado take the better of you. You got to actually be like, okay, yep. I'm done here. You've got me. Good. Okay. And then you start again and you keep rolling. Yeah. But that's a bit of a lesson in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've never had an issue with tapping out, but I imagine like if you're a big, burly guy and you're used to being the, strongest in your group of friends or whatever, and you go into a gym and you've never really had any experience before, I imagine that would be quite, humbling in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
getting choked out by a 12-year-old.
Yeah, that's humbling. I don't think I've been choked out by a 12-year-old, but I think in one of my first weeks of doing it, I've gone out a couple of times, and it's from neck chokes, and it's just too late. You want to tap, and you go to tap, and then you're out.
Your sleepy time.
It's too late. I think the first time someone had me in a cross collar, and I didn't really know what he was doing.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, and then I'm waking up, and I was like.
Were people around you when you were waking up?
No, I wasn't out like fully gone for, like you go black, you go limp, and you see, it's very peaceful.
Did you have a sense of time at all?
No, it was trippy. It's like you come back and you're like, you feel amazing. You're like, oh wow, I've just like unified with the universe, and then you're like, oh, Wait. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I just got checked out. And the person's always like that does it are always like they feel so bad. They're like, oh no, no, and you're like, no, that was my fault. Like I didn't tap early enough. Sorry.
I saw someone at a comp once. We were at that comp. Did you see that? And the guy, the ref, he felt terrible because he didn't stop. He didn't realize one guy was out because his eyes were open, and he just the guy was completely out, and it took him a while to come to. And then he got a bit of a shock when he realized he was in the middle of a competition floor and he'd been sleeping on the ground.
Yeah, well, you got to, because sometimes your hands are stuck too, and you're trying to tap, so you got to either yell as well sometimes, or like it can be difficult. Like if your hands are pinned and you're getting something, like if someone's got your legs, their hands and your legs, and they're choking you.
Nelson's got you in a gift wrap. The Venezuelan present.
Yeah, well, it's but that also like comes into life so much too, isn't it? It's like the tapping. It's like that's the thing. It's like not just burning all your energy, like all of this. It's like not burning all your energy, coming in hot, but just fading straight away. But then also, taking your time, learning the right way to go about things, conserving your energy is a huge part of it. If you lose your energy, you're not very going to last too long. And it comes down to technique and like learning the craft. You can't just be good at jiu-jitsu from the beginning. It's like you start at the bottom. You can't fake your way. You can't cheat your way through. You start at the bottom and you learn bit by bit by bit, and it seems like it just goes on forever.
You kind of start at the bottom a lot, don't you? Because you get the white belt and then you're kind of like getting somewhere with that. Or, you think you're getting somewhere with that. Well, you are getting somewhere with that. There's actually quite a lot to learn as a white belt. Like, and I don't even know the fraction of it. But
you get all the base positions, you learn it as a white belt pretty much. So it is a lot to take in.
But then you go up to your blue belt after that, and then you're starting again at the bottom of the blue belt because you compete within your belt rank. So like if you're white belt, you compete white belt. No matter if you have no stripes or 4, you're still competing against that belt color regardless, right?
Yep.
And then when you might have you had your 4 stripes white belt and you kind of maybe feel like you've got somewhere, then you go up the class.
I'm pretty much a blue belt, but then you begin again, back to square one.
And it is interesting to watch at the tournaments, the black belts compete, the black belts when they compete compared to the white belts, because it's really slow and you can see there's a lot more flow to it. It's tight. And then the white belts are very fast, and you can just see
scrappy.
Scrappy,
Scrappy, right. Just like the black belts are very controlled and very, like
sneaky.
They're like, and it's like, you can see them thinking and moving, but they're always like, it's like chess in a way. Like I don't really even know how to play chess so much, but.
Yeah, they call it human chess,
right?
right?
Like it's totally like that, because you can throw out, little fakes and things, little baits, pawns or whatever you would compare it to, but you're really playing you're going down this other track where you're actually
they're leading you somewhere,
going over here, and then you find yourself there and you're like, oh no. And they're like, yes, here we are. Taking control of you now. And they're not even, breaking a sweat while you're like huffing and puffing going on.
No way.
Yeah. So you can really see the gap, like when you roll with a black belt or even a blue belt, you do see there's like a clear gap between your ability and your technique and their ability and how they hold themselves. It's like it's very obvious each step up, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like I don't even know what I don't know, but it is. I am enjoying it. It's been super fun.
Yeah, and just the culture of it. Like it was something I didn't realize that I was missing in my life. Like I'd been doing yoga and surfing and sports the last kind of like but more like alone, like single person things the last 10 years. And I grew up playing footy and team sports, and I just sort of forgot, like once I gave up rugby, I just forgot what it was like to be in a team environment. And it's been amazing because it's like, oh, this is what it's like. And it's also, you're not in a team, like you are yourself, but it's like this community team. Like it's not this set team, because each night you go to training, there might not be the same people, you know, a few like people do different days or whatever, but there's this like culture within the gym and in jiu-jitsu at large too. Like most people you meet are really friendly. You kind of, you know, it's competitive, but it's not, because when you're training at your gym each night, or just, you know, doing your daily session or whatever, you're still kind of competing with each other, but you're helping each other, exchanging knowledge, like trying to correct each other or impart some sort of knowledge or get some, you know, learn something yourself. And it's got that real exchange as part of the culture of it.
People are quite generous, aren't they?
Definitely.
With their knowledge within the jiu-jitsu, I don't know, would you call it a community?
Culture.
Yeah. It's people are very generous with their knowledge. There's a women's open mat that I've been to once before. It's on every month in the Gold Coast, and it's so cool to go. And yeah, they're so open, and they'll teach you little things, or you'll have a roll and someone go, oh well, you know, next time this happens, you know, try this. So you're always picking up these little bits and pieces from people, and it's you know, you're kind of adding. You don't remember all of it, but trying to retain as much as possible.
And and you're talking about like people from different
different clubs
coming together.
or academies, you call them, right? Different academies. Or
I don't know. Everyone calls it. There's a few different terms, I think, isn't there? Gyms, clubs, academies. But yeah, like same with Jeff's No Gi No Worries. Like it's like a monthly open mat, which like an open mat means that anyone can come. Open door, and that's common across the whole culture too. It's like Saturdays. It's like one day a week. They kind of just open the gyms up, and anyone can, you know, so you can invite your friends, or if you're visiting from another place, you can just go to the local gym and school or academy or whatever you call it.
Roll it different with different clubs,
and get to go and hang out. Yeah, and every time it's always, you know, I haven't traveled everywhere. I've just done it like a few different places, but. When we the No Gi No Worries, for instance, like there'll be like 10 different schools coming together, and yeah, same deal. It's like super good vibes. Everyone's just like mates, like having a good chat before and after each roll, making sure everyone knows each other's names. There's also that whole tradition of like when you step on the mats, like you go and introduce yourself to everybody.
That's right. Shake
everyone's hand, say hi, you know, and there's like, so it kind of forces this. Exchange and relationship between everybody, because it is quite intimate too. You don't want to you want to just kind of say hi and then go, okay, cool, and then you can, you know, get into it. Otherwise it would be, I guess some gyms might be more intimidating, I don't know, but everyone I've been to has been pretty open and caring.
Yeah, for sure. That's my experience.
Yeah. And even just like the beginning, like I remember Russell Brand, I think, was talking on, he did this great episode on jiu-jitsu. Have you seen it?
I don't know. Was that when he got his purple belts or something like that?
It may have been.
He always posts a lot of stuff about it.
Yeah.
I like his mouth guard. It says like, I love you or something across his teeth.
But yeah,
but I'm going to choke you.
Yeah. He does this great episode. I think it's called like Why I Love Jiu-Jitsu or the Benefits. I don't know, just type in Russell Brand Jiu-Jitsu, but he talks about all the great things that he's learnt from it. But even just like the thing of how you start and bow and run around in a circle, you know, it's like very kind of traditional, but like tribe, like you feel like you're like a bit of a tribe in a way, like you're like running around in a circle, and then next minute, you know, you're grappling on the ground, or like, you know, learning these kind of very primal sorts of things. And I guess it is like, you know, most cultures have some sort of martial art, right? Like or some sort of physical.
Well, fighting, like people, and you know, I talk about the functional pattern stuff a lot, but it's like the natural movements of people, isn't it? It's like I think the functional patterns, they have the the first 4 or something like that, or maybe it's even the first 5. I can't remember, but it's like standing, walking, running, throwing, but fighting. Fighting's like one of the. I don't know if that's included in that, but
together,
it's
I guess, yeah.
That's like what people do. So these movements, natural movements, and when you have a look at, like I've been looking at these martial arts now, like looking at capoeira, and we've been watching mixed martial arts, and you can see like the Muay Thai, and you see the judo throws and all these kind of things, and you can kind of see the movements and the different expressions of those movements across different countries and cultures, and how they are natural human movements, but they've just been applied in different ways. Yeah, and it's so interesting because you can see them kind of blurring together. Like even the other day, Nelson posted some like Muay Thai kicks that he was doing at the Bunchu gym, and like it looks like some of the capoeira stuff as well. So it's all kind of
they're sort of it's like the way I've sort of looked at it or like seen it from this lens after learning it. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like. They're cultural things, the martial arts, like we're saying, but it's like they almost mimic, well, they do mimic their environments or even the animals or the actual environment around, like, like you think of karate or, these things, it's like tigers and things. And then it's like, like Muay Thai, like they almost look like they have like these fun forward kicks, like almost like a chicken, or like a rooster or something. Like it looks like cockfighting kind of vibes, you know?
It does.
Which is big in Thailand.
And the music as well that they play with that, isn't it?
Yeah.
The music, and even like capoeira, it's you can see the movement, like because it's all sneaky. It was all very, either low to the ground. They didn't have space to train. They were in like, they would have been in these little. Under the house spaces, or like confined spaces, or like even the music that goes along with that, you can just imagine them like out in the fields, like cutting cane or doing whatever they were doing. It was slaves that began this martial art, and you can just see how the music would have been, because they wouldn't have seen each other in the fields. There was like call and response. They were all being connected together, but even it's like. Small game and big game, like depending on the space that they're in. You definitely see that come through.
Yeah, because it's all sort of dependent on what the environment was or the context of where it emerged from. Because some martial arts have clothing, outfits you wear, or uniforms, or whatever you call it, like Jiu Jitsu or capoeira too, right?
I think traditionally capoeira didn't have uniforms. I think there's a bit of a story about that, like around it actually was illegal because it was like kind of like a gang thing, like they were seen as like a gang thing, or like it went underground, and I think that they brought it back and they kind of made it more of a martial art with uniforms and things like that. And we could probably even get Mestre in to talk a little bit about that, because it is a really cool story about the capoeira. I like it because it's all like about the fighting oppression and
and it's got like music, but also all these have, like we're saying, music, but then also some have weapons or like instruments that they swords or sticks or
Very mouse.
Yeah, bearing mouse, exactly. So it's super interesting. It's really just opened up my whole world to martial arts in general, because now you learn to appreciate all the different types. And, I used to look at the UFC and kind of was like, oh, it was like, because it is brutal. It's hard to watch at some,
It is brutal.
It's hard to watch. Like when it gets rough, it's like, whoa. But when you start to practice a martial art, you realize what goes into getting to that level, the mental training, the physical training. These people are like they're mixed martial arts artists, which means they don't just do one, they do multiple. They might be black belts in multiple martial arts with Muay Thai, with whatever, kicking, punching, grappling, the whole thing. And it's just like, wow, like that's a whole another level. And when you get into that octagon,
there's only one way out.
Die. Exactly. It is do or die. And, one person wins. And that's it's pretty interesting. Now I'm really into the UFC because I can really appreciate the art of it. And you get to, and when you start learning the intricacies of it, you know, you get, because you can look at a fight and it might not look too exciting, like depending on what kind of style the person's fighting. But when you, like, if you're looking at a jiu-jitsu match, especially in the gi, so they do jiu-jitsu in gi and no gi, but if you watch the professional tournaments in the gi, it's way slower. It's almost like watching, like, I don't know, I can compare them to like a 3-day test match of cricket versus like a 2020 or something. Like the no gi is like fast.
It's
There's no
super
grips.
fast, slippery.
You can't hold on. They're just like whoa, 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 fast. But then the gis, like, they get these holds and they can really control a position for much longer, and it's much more like sort of thought out and deliberate.
They're very different sports even in themselves, aren't they?
Massively, yeah. One's way more like like you're like constantly in this reaction, action, react. Like they both are, but the feedback of the no gi is just like incredibly fast. Legs,
I do love
arms. Yeah, yeah. It's super. It's fun, and that's it gets your heart rate up. That's for sure. And gets you sweating. That's for sure as well. It's like super intense with the sweat. But yeah. Well, we're almost at time here. But anything else you want to share on jiu-jitsu before we close out? There's so much more to talk about jiu-jitsu too, isn't there? And like
and we hardly know anything.
No shit. No.
Like we're just starting our journey with it. So imagine like bringing someone like Mark on, or it'd be interesting to hear what they've got to say. There's always so much to learn. Yeah,
but for anyone that's thought about it, or maybe you haven't thought about it, since learning jiu-jitsu,
Tom's been shilling jiu-jitsu
I'm like
jiu-jitsu shill.
An advocate. I'm just like, everybody try Brazilian jiu-jitsu, go. Because everyone's like, oh, I've been thinking, like so many of my mates are like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to or whatever. And I'm like, no, just go and do it. And you'll be like, oh, of course, now I get it. Because I had no idea what it was until I went and actually tried it. I actually hadn't even really watched it. I just thought it was cool because I didn't even think it was cool. I didn't even know what it was. I saw an old friend of mine, Kane Wilkin, get his black belt on Instagram. And I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And I think you were like, you need to, go and try something like different. And I was like after doing yoga for so long, I was kind of just, I don't know, I just needed something different. And that was like it. I just got there. I was like, oh, this is it. Community, physical, mental learning, like intellectual. It's like everything muddled into one. And that's where you go, oh, okay, I get it. The art, like martial arts.
I think you need that though, like that contact, like just kind of like in a bit of a impact. This is not really impact sport. It's not striking or anything, but it does feel good to just like kind of like wrestle and
have contact.
Yeah.
Reminds me of being a kid. When you're a kid, like not everyone's into physical stuff as a kid, but I was for sure, like when, whether it was just like getting exhausted, like I even remember like wrestling with my dad when I was little and things like that. Like, and you just find it so funny, you just be laughing and it kind of has that aspect to it. Like it is kind of, it connects you to just being playful and physical and just
learning stuff as an adult as well. Learning new things as an adult is like a whole new, it can be quite scary for people to try new things like that. Like going in as a white belt in your 30s or your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, like there's no real age where they say
it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah, no. And it helps you so much, like with confidence. Like that was another thing, confidence in the sense that when you start to learn some self-defense and when you get comfortable with physicality, it makes you much more relaxed. Because if somebody were to try and do anything to me now, like on the street or something, like instigate some violence or something, or like to any degree, like if someone sketchy came up or if there was a brawl or if someone was in trouble, you've actually got skills now. You actually know what to do, which relaxes your subconscious a lot, I feel, because you don't have that back thought being like, oh shit, you're like, what would I do if something happened? Like now you know, like if something happened, you'd be like, oh, okay, I'm going to read the situation.
Your response would be a lot better, wouldn't it? Like, you know, when you start out as a white belt and, you know, when there's a fresh person who's just come in for the first week, the reactions are very like the arms are going everywhere. They're, you know, the
panicky, scattered. Yeah.
And you learn not to do that very quickly because you know you're going to get just completely gassed in no time at all. So yeah, so you kind of have, you end up, even if you aren't as skilled as a blue belt or whatever, and you still, you know, there's so much to learn, you definitely do have a bit of a different response to the situation.
Yeah, and you're not scared, like, because you're used to it now. Like if somebody came up and grabbed you, whereas before jiu-jitsu they'd do that, like you'd maybe be more shocked, like I would be. But now, you know, you're so used to getting grabbed and stuff, you're like, oh, it's just like another one of these situations where it's probably just a bit more pressure in this environment. But like your brain, you got that muscle memory then to go, okay, what are the steps I need to take to get myself out of this situation?
Use leverage to get into a better position.
Yeah.
Or diffuse the situation.
Exactly. Space or close in, you know, it's like the simple things. If you stay in the middle, you're in, you know, arm's distance to get hit. What are you going to do? You're going to move closer so they can't hit you, or step further away so they can't hit you, you know? It's like little simple things. You're like, of course. Like, but a scared person or a shocked person would freeze, and then you're prone to getting hit. Yeah. Even though jiu-jitsu, there's no punching or kicking anyway, but it's about managing space and things like that. And also it's like anyone that is probably in some sort of physical situation on the street probably doesn't know a martial art.
What you mean, like if someone's going to pick
instigating
a fight?
Something?
Yeah, probably not.
They're probably not going to be.
Because they're not in the philosophy of it.
No, they might, like, not to say that there's no jiu-jitsu black belt that goes out and tries to fight people. Maybe there is, but like most jiu-jitsu black belts are like cool, calm and collected people that are just like, you know, no problems around here kind of vibe, which would be pretty good feeling, especially, after all that, so many years of training. And
what an accomplishment.
Yeah. And then when you get to black belt, you still got to keep going. Let's start there again. So, wow, what a journey. I'm definitely going to continue on the jiu-jitsu path for as long as it looks like it for a while. I don't see myself stopping. Forever. We can also at the end. But thanks for listening to another episode. As always, you can find us on social media, Design on Purpose, on TikTok, on Instagram. You can also check our YouTube channel, Design on Purpose, if you're not on there right now. Otherwise, you can also stream this on Spotify, on podcasts. You can check out our design agency, WordPlay Studio, on Instagram, on LinkedIn.
We're on Telegram. We've got a Telegram channel that would be good to get some people on there, because we've been I think we're getting into more posting some stuff. We've been putting the YouTube videos on there when new ones come out, and any cool articles and things
we just find.
We've been chucking in there. So I think at the moment there's only 3 people in there, and we're 2 of them.
It's like when we go live, we're like, oh wow, there's 2 people, and I'm like, oh, wait, those 2 people are us.
Cool.
And that's a good point. Friday mornings, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on LinkedIn and on our Instagram, we answer questions. We do a live Q&A. And
like design questions, brand and design questions.
Yes,
so if you're starting a business and you want some, you've got a question around your branding or where to start with that, or a business question.
Yeah, it can be a complex question too. Like we take the time to really go deep and understand what really is the issue or the challenge that needs to be solved. So it can be high level or down in the trenches. We'll get down there or up there and give it our best. So that's 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you can't make the sessions live, share your questions with us. and we'll answer it live in the session. So you can just hit us up on any of our social media platforms, or even text message if you know us, if you got the numbers. Whatever, get the message to us, the question to us.
I don't really check my text
Oh, sorry,
messages.
Telegram or whatever. But we'll answer them, and you can catch the recording. So and we've done a couple so far. And we've actually, I heard there was some. Michelle said that after the session last week, she got like two new wholesale customers like over the weekend after the Friday. So
But why? Did she do something what we said?
I think she was. Yeah, I think she just kind of something happened, and she just got into gear and did some things different. Like did something and
Michelle
got some results already. So she was pretty stoked. Yeah. So anyway, that's it for another episode of Design on Purpose, and we'll be back next week with a guest, Nelson.
Vibes, good vibes. Vibes creative.
Us.
Us.